All right.
Well, first off, Ron, thank you for doing this, sir. I think a two-part question to begin. Where do you feel this moves the organization with today's news, and what numbers told you that this move was necessary?
Yeah, I mean, it's never an easy day. It's never an easy decision. You know, we let a guy who's a good coach and a really good person go, and it's, you know, it's not easy. But, you know, we're looking at our organization and, you know, just looking at the season, I thought we were a little more inconsistent than we had been. You know, a few too many losing streaks of significant numbers, and so we just felt it was time to try a new voice here.
Beyond the losing streaks, I mean, you're the one who designed this roster. Was there anything you saw in the roster that wasn't specifically performing the way you thought it should be at this point?
Well, I think you look. I mean, you can probably make a case, right, with the amount of injuries and stuff we had. We had some guys that had off seasons. We had guys that missed a lot of time. You know, so there was a lot of challenges to the roster as well. And it doesn't mean that you know, we're not going to look to do things in the summer. We said that before. We have to make some changes to the roster and try and get back to where we want to get to next season for sure.
But as far as what you saw in the coach, was there anything you thought he could have been doing more with in terms of the roster that you expected to see?
Well, I mean, I think he's very, if you know Dave, he's very thorough in his approach. He's very detailed. You know, there was certainly some challenges there. Where, you know, the roster probably fell short with, you know, with Belly getting hurt and trying wingers at center at times. It was a little bit more challenging for sure for him. But you know, he's the kind of guy that's going to roll up his sleeves and work and not complain, and I think he did that. You know, we felt it was the time to go in a different direction here.
Ron, how much did the exit interviews play into your decision?
I think you're careful in exit interviews. You know, I think you talk about things, but that wasn't what we made this decision based on.
How early on in the season did you feel that a reevaluation of Dave's position may be necessary going forward?
I think we reevaluate ourselves every day. I mean, it's you know, that's something we do on an ongoing basis. What we do as a management team, what I said at the end of the year, what we do as a coaching staff, with development staff, scouting staffs, we review all that stuff all the time. So, you know, it wasn't until we got to the end of the season and took some time and thought about it. And honestly, I didn't make my final decision until yesterday morning.
Ron, can you speak a little bit to the sort of the personal side of a decision like this? I mean, I would imagine you have a pretty close relationship with Dave at this point. How difficult was this for you to make this call?
It's really difficult. I mean, like I said, I think he was a good coach when we hired him. I still think he's a good coach. He's a terrific person. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes in, not only by him but by his wife and his family. And you know, it's never easy to make a decision like this and tell somebody that you know, you're relieving them of their duties. So it's extremely, you know, sad day in that regard.
Is there anything you can tell us at this point? I know it's very early, but in terms of what attributes come to mind that you might want to see in his predecessor?
Yeah, I thought I might get that question. I think if I answer that question, it's going to be tied to this is what I didn't think Dave was doing, and so I'd rather not really do that at this point. But we will start the search immediately.
Ron, you mentioned the streaks. Is there anything from your days of playing or coaching, or obviously now in the front office, that helps to break those? Or, I mean, it's kind of a tough question to answer, but thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if everybody had the answer, they wouldn't happen as often or as long as they do, right? You know, by the same token, we had a 9-game winning streak and 11-0-2 stretch too. So it's, you know, there was some positives to that too. It's just we seem to be up and down. Some of that, you know, that you can justify the start of some of the stretches with injuries or illness or what have you. But we just seem to be up and down more so this year than we had been.
Why keep Lowry and Leach as opposed to McFarland?
It's just my decision as I'm analyzing not only Dave but the entire staff.
Ron, how surprised are you that this is a decision you're making after this year, given the season you had a year ago, given the extension coming into the season, that this is the way this year went to where you're making a call like this?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, we had a real good season last year, went probably better than we expected, and you know, our staff did a good job, and they got rewarded for it. I mean, this season didn't go as well as you know, we had hoped, and then you got to look at things and try and make decisions at the end of the season, and that's where we ended up at this point today.
Did you inform the staff yesterday?
Did I inform?
Did you inform the staff yesterday?
No, I met with Dave, starting with Dave this morning at 10 a.m.
Here.
Yep.
Do you have a definite timeline as far as when you want to have the coaching position filled?
I don't have a definite timeline. Like I said, we'll start the process right away, and goal is to get the right guy we think to help lead the organization moving forward.
Ron, in your first comment, you mentioned a new voice. And I wonder, with the number of coaching changes continually in the NHL, if after 3 years, is that the expiration date for any coach these days? Because you see coaches going new places, you see coaches going back to places they've been. Is it just a fact of life these days that new voices are needed after a certain number of years?
I wouldn't say there's a set number of, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. I think every situation is unique, and you look at each sort of situation individually.
But he didn't forget how to coach in the last 12 months. Did he get worse at coaching? I mean, something changed. If you say
I think you look.
was needed.
I think you look at a lot of dynamics of your team, your locker room, your performance on the ice. There's a lot of things that factor in. But you're saying you have to do that every 3 years, and I'm saying that I don't think that's necessarily the case. But.
Ron, half the league has changed head coaches since the end of last season. Why do you think it is such a volatile job nowadays in the NHL with the way the league is?
Well, I think there's so much at stake, right? The parity in the league is so close. On any given night, you can win or lose, and the expectations are probably more intense now than they've ever been. When you look at teams can just get into a playoffs and have a chance to win the cup. So there's a lot of pressure to get in. There's no easy route to getting in. It's a long season. There's a lot of things that can happen over the course of the season. I think these all factor into some of those decisions that are made.
With Paul being let go, can you speak a little more to your evaluation of him, particularly running the power play for the last 3 years?
Yeah, no, obviously that's what we're looking at as part of that, because he was in charge of that. I've had different conversations and watched it, and just felt that it was a change we needed to make. Where we go from there as far as the replacing him when the power play guy, we have to see where that falls out as well.
Ron, at exit interviews, Vince Dunn said he never thought that Dave had lost the room. I feel like we hear that phrase sometimes. Did you get that sense from talking to the players that they still kind of had his back, the message was still getting through?
Yeah, I don't. I said, that's the exit interviews and stuff. I'm watching each and every night, and that's what I'm trying to see whether I think that. I don't think that the players quit on Dave. I thought even their first season, as tough as that was with COVID and stuff, they continued to work hard for him. Last year was the same thing, and I think this year, same thing. They worked hard for him. We just didn't get the results we wanted to get.
How much do you think having a captain going forward might help whoever the new coach is, just with certain things going on in the dressing room?
Yeah, I think our leadership group is good. I think that relationship between our coach and the leaders was solid. It has something that we talked about this year about moving forward, and certainly that's something we'll explore, over the course of the summer as we get the new coach in place and what we want to do heading into next season for sure.
Dan Bilesma said that a coaching change sends an energy charge into the room and also makes players sit up and maybe even feel guilty for the part they played in it. Do you feel that this also sends a message to your players?
Well, I would hope so. The plan is in our exit meetings. It wasn't good enough this year, and we got to be better starting day one in camp next year. So, that's not why we did it. But I would think if I'm a player, there's some responsibility on my shoulder for sure.
How important will be? You're about to have a lot of your young players start to break into the lineup on a regular basis. Maddie's already here, Shane's coming next year, Riker, etc. How important will be finding a coach that can unlock those guys to reach their full potential and be what you're searching for here?
Yeah, no, that's a key to our future, right? So if we can continue to develop the prospects we think we have and they become really good NHL players, that's going to allow us to be a really good team. If we're not able to unlock that potential and they end up being kind of mediocre, it's going to hurt us moving forward. So, we're focused on now. We're focused on winning today, and we also have an eye to the future and making sure that our prospects continue to develop, and when they're ready to step in, they can play significant roles for the Kraken.
Ron, it's still such a young franchise, but when you look going forward, how do you define success? Like, what should be the standard going forward, and what does a successful season look like?
Well, I think our goal is like a lot of teams every year. You want to make the playoffs, right? And that's not where we made the change because we didn't make it this year. But our goal every year as we step out is to get into the playoffs. And I think once you get into the playoffs, you look at the difference between the top teams and the teams that finish in the wild card spots. There's not much. So you want invitation to the dance, and then once you get to the dance, you want to be able to have success while you're there.
Good. Great.
All
Thanks
right.
for-
Appreciate y'all coming out
Thank you,
today.
Ron.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
you.
you.